Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday weather outlook for the southern region brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. We begin first with an animation here of satellite infrared temperatures going from yesterday into the overnight hours tonight to early this morning, and of course your eyes are drawn there to the circulation of Cristobal, which has now moved up into parts of Missouri and Illinois and eventually hits parts of Iowa and Wisconsin later today. Now, what's going to be happening after this system moves through? When does it finally get picked up and shoved off to the east? And what does that mean for our temperature and precipitation patterns over the next couple of weeks? And that's what we want to answer as we get through this video. So let's just go ahead and take a look at how much rainfall we've gotten so far just over the last 3 days from Cristobal. There's been some incredibly heavy rains in parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, and then getting down to the coastal areas of Georgia, and then a big section of Florida getting really dumped on here. But as you can see, the path is kind of cut back here and cutting through Arkansas now into Missouri where the heavy rain is falling this morning. But if you just notice around this, for the rest of our southern region, over the last few days, things have been relatively dry. And what I want to do is I want to put this precipitation forecast into the context of the last couple of weeks. So what you're looking at here is the last 2 weeks in terms of percent of normal precipitation. And what we notice is that Cristobal, which is coming right in through here, of course, is hitting an area that recently has had some decent precipitation. Now, there's a few pockets in it that have been dry, but notice as you go to the west of there, throughout much of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, parts of New Mexico, things are dry. There's some patchy regions over here in parts of the southeast, in Georgia, South Carolina, getting up into the Appalachian Mountains, that was dry. And then as you get in and around Memphis, right in through here, things have been dry before Cristobal kind of came through. So why I'm bringing this up is because as we look out into this forecast and things really start to dry down, it's going to be critical to see when those rains return and what do our temperatures do, plus the winds, to possibly give us some really high evaporation numbers here. So what you're looking at is the all hazards weather map for today from weather.gov. We have heat advisories here. This is all wind related there, and these are red flag warnings in parts of western Texas getting over to New Mexico. And so we're going to watch this all very carefully as this storm system kind of comes plowing through. And it will be increasing thunderstorm chances as we get to the east and southeast here in the near term. But take a look at what these winds are going to be doing throughout the day today, getting into tomorrow, and then finally into the day on Thursday when higher pressure tries to move back in. You can see clearly why we have the high wind warnings for this afternoon and this evening. We're going to be seeing wind gusts here that are easily in the 30 to 40 mile an hour range coming through parts of Texas. And then as the whole system pulls farther to the east, it's actually neat. It's two separate lows. Cristobal is here, and then the synoptic scale low from the upper level trough is sitting back here in parts of Kansas. Well, as it all comes sweeping through, the frontal boundary eventually makes it over to the southeast, increasing rainfall chances there. But I want to show you something. As you let this go on through the day on Wednesday, this is Wednesday evening, now getting into the day on Thursday. Things tend to calm down by Thursday morning a bit. The frontal boundary still stalls here. I'll talk about it in just a few moments. But notice how quickly the southerly winds regain position here in parts of Texas and Oklahoma. And we're going to see a very quick rebound in temperatures back in the south central plains, which is going to crank up those evaporation rates again on some relatively stronger winds. So putting it all together, here's your next week's worth of precipitation as forecast by the WPC. So essentially Cristobal goes north, and then it finally heads off over toward the north and east in Canadian Maritimes. But it will leave this lingering frontal boundary here sitting over parts of the Mid-South, stretching all the way down to parts of Georgia and Alabama. And on that, we're going to be seeing multiple shots at getting rainfall. Then we're going to have to watch right here along the coast for the possible development of not a tropical system, but just something to look out for here. This coastal weak, almost tropical-like low that just skirts along the coast, possibly increasing rainfall amounts to maybe over 1.5 inches over the next week in this part of North and South Carolina. Otherwise, Texas, we are on a long stretch of drier weather, and so is parts of Louisiana and Arkansas after, of course, Cristobal goes through. Just to put it together, here's your next week when you look at differences from normal. So we can see that much of our southern region after Cristobal gets out of here is dry. I'm just going to have to watch this area right over here pretty carefully as we work out through the next week. Good news is in the near term, there's no real tropical activity to be discussing. The system that's out here, which has got a really low probability of developing, is not going to be a threat to the United States. And right now, the National Hurricane Center isn't watching anything else in the tropics, but I'll come back to that in a few moments. So let's talk severe weather. General thunderstorm risk from eastern Texas all the way over to the Carolinas today as Cristobal moves north. And then as we work our way into day 2, so this will be tomorrow on Wednesday, we need to watch this area very carefully as the tail end of the frontal boundary comes sweeping through here, possibly giving us a better chance at some stronger storms. And then that moves right over here into parts of Virginia, North and South Carolina in the day on Thursday, which would be the 11th. So let's watch it all. Ready? As I press play here, you can see where our 2 low pressure systems are. There's one here and there's one right there. Now what we're going to see as we play this forward in the European model is that throughout the day today, so let's go this afternoon and this evening, widespread scattered showers and storms down here in the southeast. Okay, very windy conditions on the backside of both of these lows and to the south of them here. And as we play this forward from Tuesday night now into Wednesday morning, afternoon, you see once again, this will be the area we're going to watch as the frontal boundary, which will be right here midday Wednesday from Indiana straight down here, basically to New Orleans. That frontal boundary bringing in the cooler but windier air. Out ahead of it, thunderstorm activity, possibly some of which could be severe. So there's Wednesday night right here. And then as we play forward into the morning on Thursday, you see that the storm systems combine, they get out here into this part of Canada, and higher atmospheric pressure builds in. Now, this is what brings in the cooler weather midweek, but the moment this high slides east, we get the flow coming right back around the backside of it, and that's when things start to heat back up in Texas. So watch, as I go forward here from Thursday afternoon into the evening, now into Friday morning, what I've done is we've lost that high pressure cell. Behind it, the winds start to come back up, and you can see the lingering frontal boundary sitting right here, increasing precipitation chances as we work our way through Friday afternoon and evening. And it just doesn't seem to want to go away in this part of the southeast. So dry here, but just lingering precipitation here along the coast. And what I'm watching here, now we're getting pretty far out in the forecast. This is Sunday afternoon and evening, now getting into Monday morning. Can you almost see how there is a weak kind of reflection of a low pressure cell right here? There is a deeper trough in place. So we're going to watch it carefully because it looks as though it's going to keep parts of the mid-Atlantic kind of wet. But outside of that, things are relatively dry as we look over the next week for much of our southern region. And when we go out beyond that, take a look at the flow pattern at day 10. Remember how we're keeping a close eye on what's going on over the Aleutian Islands? But the jet stream is really favoring this with this potential little trough sitting right into this area, like I said, keeping things wet along the mid-Atlantic. But overall, this flow pattern is one that's relatively dry for much of our southern region. So we go out here to week 2. I have the GFS ensemble on the left, the European ensemble on the right, and we just see that for much of the southern part of the United States, dry conditions are on tap. It's, again, only going to be this part of the mid-Atlantic that I'm concerned about being wet. Now, in terms of tropical activity, I don't see much going on here, and I'll come back to that in just a few seconds after we do give you some information on temperatures. So you can see the frontal boundary right now today on Tuesday. So the panhandles, after having near triple-digit heat, we go back into the 70s for highs today, but out ahead of this, very warm. As we play forward from Tuesday here, getting into Wednesday, now the frontal boundary is sweeping through this part of Alabama and over toward Georgia, and then behind it some seasonable, even cooler at times air. But you notice as I already get into Thursday, remember how the high was already bringing the flow back into Texas? Now we're back up into the mid-90s here. As we go from Thursday into Friday, much of the same in this part of Texas as the deeper trough occupies much of the eastern part of the United States. Saturday's high temperatures, again, the heat is on in the Central Plains and the South Central Plains. Same thing for Sunday. Above average temperatures, the name of the game here. When did the temperatures start to rebound over here in parts of the southeast? Well, we don't see it through Monday, so does it show up in the 6 to 10 day? Not really. We hang onto that cooler air there while we really see the big heat coming back into the South Central Plains, both models reflecting that. But as we get out here longer term, this is now on the 11 to 15 day forecast, which gets you out to the evening of the 23rd of June. That's when we start to see overall generally seasonable with maybe a slight warm bias in the temperatures showing up. Now, back about that longer range pattern. What I've been telling you and what we're going to watch carefully is what's going on over the Aleutian Islands. Okay, as we work our way out to the 23rd of the month, we see that Aleutian Island trough setting up there, which may be favoring more of a ridge in the western United States. You see the flow pattern could do something like this. Now, what does that mean in terms of our precipitation? This is not a wet pattern for the southern region. Okay, it's not a wet pattern to finish June for the southern region. It could be more stormy in the north central part of the United States, but not for the southern region. But that trough that you see here is what helps keep us overall near average with maybe only a slight warm bias with much warmer conditions west. Now, here's some of the stuff we're going to talk about in tomorrow's long range. The Mount-Julian Oscillation, after really going fast through phase 5, 6, 7, and 8, has stalled out into phase 1 and 2 and isn't forecast to move very quickly through phase 2 and 3, which is why we see the best upper level support happening here in phase 1, 2, and 3 for upward motion. Now, the good news about that is sinking motion, which is seen here in these warmer colors, tends to be setting up over in our neck of the woods, which means not the best environment to get tropical cyclones developing as we look out over the next 10 days or so. So that's why I showed you the National Hurricane Center isn't too worried about it either. But as we get out here a little bit farther, and I'll finish with this, June 27th through July the 4th. Yep, we do see the warmer than average conditions actually across much of the United States. But the latest model run just came in with this wet corridor in through here. And I got to spend some time figuring out why this is. Is it tropical in nature? Is it due just to the jet stream flow? That's going to be the question to be answered, because that is an interesting kind of turn of events as we finish June and start the month of July. And overall, while you see drier conditions in this area, remember, any single tropical system could wipe out any worries about dryness as we work our way from the end of June into July. So I'll have to watch all of that and see it all evolve, but remember, we cannot predict hurricane activity more than about 7 to 10 days in advance. So just a bit of a disclaimer there. Hey, have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you tomorrow with my long-range update, and I look forward to giving you that new analysis, all right? Have a good one. Thank you.